can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.
All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to Jumpstart Masteries Live at 5 on Tuesdays. We're streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Welcome all. Excellent topic today from Brenda at BE Branding or B Branding. Managing anger without meeting it, responding to insults, threats, and defiance without escalating the moment. I have a lot of thoughts to share on this today. Particularly in relationship to the last week. Here at Jumpstart, we hosted a wonderful podcast with the great Dr. Martina Pesic from Hamburg, Germany, managing emotions when the negotiation is personal. And she offered some wonderful thoughts, tips, and ideas to become aware of managing our emotions when we become vulnerable within the context of a negotiation and interpersonal interaction with another human being. We also had a wonderful podcast with the great Dr. Andy McDonald from Studio 3, Tony Blauer and I, where we discussed, among a number of things, particularly the nervous system functionality around the startle flinch impulse, fear, anger, and how to mitigate our own negative impacts, let's say, on any situation when our emotional arousal is highly stimulated. Dr. McDonald is the founder of the low arousal method. Just think of what that implies. What is the low arousal method? It means that everything we do when we're managing the presentation of stress in another human being is to not make it worse by high arousal. It is to engage in low arousal approaches no matter what the situation is, because we don't want our interaction qualities to make it worse. But let's talk about a couple of core ideas that I routinely hit on in these lives. I'd say that mastery of anything is really anchored in an understanding of the basics. So let's understand some basic principles. You're faced with someone who's hurling insults. You're faced with someone who's hurling threats, verbal threats, maybe even physical threats, and engaging in what would be known, simply speaking, as defiance. You know, let's say you've sent out a couple of messages that this behavior is causing you discomfort. Maybe it's making you feel unsafe, and the person is still doing it. Let's talk about some givens. The way that human beings are wired, the senses are going to interpret the world while constantly measuring risk. You have no control over that. None. Stimulation and its suddenness and speed is going to activate certain involuntary functions that are beyond your ability to control in terms of their ignition. When they're lit off, you're an observer, a witness. What you're not is someone who can stopgap that before you experience it, which means that you're always going to experience the impulse. There's no escape. Another core idea. Human beings have a capacity to lean into duress, as the great Tony Blauer would say, and manage the impulses that their autonomic nervous system are probably giving them under a variety of conditions. In other words, you have the ability to say to the world, no, this thing that you're doing, world, is not going to determine ultimately my emotional state. This is an important idea. This is not to be overlooked. Well, Andy, what about this situation or that situation? You can give me 100 of them. There are people who have gone beyond their emotional state being dictated and regulated by external circumstances. Think that through for a minute. Do you mean to tell me, Andy, that there are people who can manage high emotional arousal upon witnessing egregious acts? Yes. Upon being insulted? Yes. Upon life or death circumstances? Yes. How about upon circumstances where they are super vulnerable in an intimate relationship and their intimate partner has said or done something that has stimulated this? You mean to say that people can manage their impulses when that happens? Yes. That's what the data says. That's what the history books say. That's what philosophers ad nauseum have written about. These things cannot be swept under the rug. We live in a culture today, and fortunately, I think people are getting hip to this. We live in a culture today who thoroughly believe that their emotional state is a direct relationship to the injustice they're witnessing. And they are justified in their outward expression of anger and rage about it, when others might witness that as someone who's got lack of control over their emotional state. A couple of weeks ago, I spent some time discussing outrage, and that a feeling of outrage that inspires a need to send a message about why you're outraged. This is wrong. That's wrong. This is unfair. That's unfair. The animating force of the rage, if it's not managed, will cause the message you want to send to be hidden. Because all people are going to see is what their nervous system sees when you animate the rage. There's a difference between feeling rage and expressing it attenuated than feeling rage and acting out rage. When you act out rage or high levels of anger, your message is lost. These are solid foundational ideas I'm giving you. So what happens when you're engaging in interaction with someone who's using insults, threats, and presenting categorically something that could be called as defiance? They don't care about the boundaries you set, the feelings that you report, the needs that you share. Don't care. Tony Blauer says it this way, and it's kind of brilliant. You are your own bodyguard, not only of your physical state, but of your emotional state. You are your own first responder. Demanding that the world change in order for you to be okay, you're going to be on a long train that never gets to where you want it to go. Which means that somehow, upon accepting some of these ideas about how the nervous system works, we have to consider this question. What the hell do I do then to get better at it? I'm going to share an interesting experience I had today. I have never been a fan of quote unquote body work. All of the modalities that regard touch and claims about releasing stress and anxiety that's captured in tissues, that it's therapeutic in nature. I always witnessed that world as an unregulated world scientifically, and that people who engage in that practice are maybe very well-meaning, maybe effective, some of them, but as a discipline, as a modality, dangerous. I always thought that. And to some extent, I haven't let all of that go. But I will share something today that happened to me. A dear colleague and friend brought to my attention someone who was doing something called sacral cranial therapy. And he believed that there's something in there for me to explore, to maybe help this particular practitioner and maybe to share with our community my journey into exploring this. So, after some dialogue with the clinic owner and the practitioner, I made the decision to go down there to see what this was about, because my approaches to managing anger have largely been cerebral, psychodynamic, psychotherapeutic in nature, experience being a teacher, psychotherapy, counseling, spiritual guidance. I've done all of these areas that have interested me. Never once got into the physical realm. I got on the table, and this person engaged in what I am going to describe in my own words. I'm going to describe it as therapeutic touch that allowed the practitioner, while trying to create conditions of relaxation, their hands on me in a way where they would feed back observations about what my body was doing as I attempted to simply relax and observe. And my body would do something, apparently, that I wasn't aware of. The practitioner would say, "What just happened there?" And I would share some kind of thought or image that came to mind at that moment that I had no control over. This happened routinely through the course of the session, causing my belief about this person's credibility to go way up. This person was physically observing by, I described their hands as like a meat thermometer. You know, you put it on the turkey, the roast, whatever, and it is measuring things. That's all that it's doing. It's not trying to influence anything. It's just trying to measure. This person's measurement ability was profound. And this person was able to bring into my awareness impulses that my body was expressing, which were clearly attached to thoughts. And I was able to engage a capacity of observation without any extraordinary emotional arousal. That's a lot of words to describe this. I could observe something I was thinking or feeling without feeling any kind of way about it. Neutral. I could observe, listen to me, this is important. I could observe a feeling that existed in my body. I saw the attachment of that feeling in my body to a thought or image, and I was able to observe it without emotional arousal. This was something very new for me. Why am I bringing this up? The time to practice managing insults and threats is not when you're currently receiving insults and threats. It is to deeply consider instead, between those events, gaining some kind of influence over my peace of mind. And if I develop an ability to influence my own peace of mind, when things threaten it, I'm able to maintain it. What would threaten peace of mind? Unjust or inaccurate information being claimed about me. Some kind of physical safety problem. Maybe some kind of erroneous attribution. Someone claims my motivation to do something is not what I was experiencing. In intimate relationships, we are prone, I certainly am prone to become emotionally aroused far more than in interactions with other people because I have need in my relationships that are intimate. Need. And if my sense of safety is threatened, if my objective is threatened, if my goal is blocked, if my need for this relationship to be okay, I perceive to be threatened, my emotional arousal is going to increase considerably. The time to get good at managing insults and threats from other human beings is to acquire knowledge about how you work. Alex Honnold has probably been on no less than 20 podcasts since climbing Taipei, Taiwan, to bring that message. His experience being on the climbing face, whether it's of El Capitan or that building, is so filled with knowledge of what to do that the fear or anxiety that would go along with the pressure of not making a mistake is not there to the extent that we might think. He's observing it. He may say it's there. It's not determining his next move or his strategy. The advantage to this approach, which is preferred, is long-standing value in your relationships. I get better as a husband and as a father by immersing myself into understanding why I am prone to be reactive to certain kinds of events. And the more that I develop understanding about that, the less power they have over me when they occur. To the extent today that there's very little that animates me unless I'm in a very intimate relationship where there's need. And now I at least know that I'm going to feel an impulse that's unsavory. I'm going to feel an impulse that might want to instigate a certain kind of reactive behavior. Here's the good news. I don't need to. I don't have to. Jiddu Krishnamurti, and I've been sharing his clips lately because one after another that I'm locating are getting better and better. What is important in my interaction is my act of listening, he says. If I am totally attentive, totally 100% attentive to the other human being, I become free of all of their statements, true, false, good, or bad. And in that freedom, there is no border. The moment I put up a border, we fight. Am I able to listen to my wife's accurate appraisal of, let's say, habits that I have or need to develop in a way where I observe the fear, observe the anger, and not let it drive what I want to say in response? The answer is yes. There is a capacity to suspend. Viktor Frankl wrote about it in Man's Search for Meaning. This idea is not new. Sadly, we are reinforced by algorithms that contend that it is better to express yourself from reaction, particularly if the argument is on the moral high ground of some issue. Nope. That's not better. It's not better for collaboration. It's not better for your well-being. When you're able to present to another human being your capacity to manage yourself, that has a salutary effect on another human being's nervous system. We know this now. So you mean, Andy, when someone tells you to go F yourself, your needle doesn't move? Correct. Do you mean to tell me that when your daughter doesn't do what you require her to do, you don't get angry? I may feel something. It doesn't drive what I do anymore. Now, I'm not sitting here saying like I'm some kind of a Jedi. I will say this, though. I'm very, very much a student on this journey, and I'm fascinated by it. Can I get to a place where I am totally attentive in every situation to the extent that I am free from someone else's statements, good, bad, true, or false? And in that freedom, I'm able to be fully present and within the full diversity and expression of my neocortex? The answer is yes. Now, it doesn't mean that I don't slide. Doesn't mean that I don't express my anger sometimes at a higher volume than I would like. But those occurrences are a lot less today. And I mean a lot less. A lot. There's also something to be said about making a priority your stress and peace of mind. I never thought until I got to my late 50s, which is where I am now, when I hear things about blood pressure, cholesterol, interest in releasing stress is becoming more and more attractive to me. And what's interesting about that is that in attending to that as a priority, things like insults and threats are less emotionally arousing. I hope this has been an interesting conversation. I hope that you'll consider what we talked about here. It's recorded, so I'm not going to recap it, but this capacity in human beings is there. It's not easy to undertake, but it is rewarding if it is undertaken. And at a time in our world where we got kids terribly angry at each other all the time, I want to invite you to a journey of attending to your own well-being so that people animating from a dysregulated state no longer bother you. It's a possible place to get to for a lot of people, most people, and plenty of people who probably think they can't. So, more on Thursday at the Jumpstart Mastery Network at 4:00. And make sure you catch Managing Emotions when the negotiation is personal with Dr. Martina Pesic. And please be on the lookout for it's on our YouTube channel. It's also on some of our other social media, the De-Escalation Station podcast with the great Andy McDonald. It's been a pleasure to be with you. Take good care.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
More that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.